We're gonna start, David. You know, there's a guy who was born in Argentina, who studied communications, and who always believed in the power of storytelling, and also who always saw people like you as role models. That person is me. So thanks, David, for having a moment with us.
Well, Santi, the first thing I should do is say to you, maybe get a life or meet new people. Hopefully I don't let you down.
Yeah, but I mean, for the audience for sure, but also for me, this is a very special moment. So
I'm honored to be talking with you. We've spent some time talking over the past few weeks, and I promised my friends who are listening and anybody else that we'd have fun. So let's do it.
And also, I mean, I was telling you last time, I'm impressed. Like, you've been in the industry for more than 40 years. And after 40 years, having people saying great things about you, admiring you that much, and all over the world. I mean, I talked with Justin Thomas Copeland, DDB new CEO. I talked with Nino Goldberg in Argentina. I mean, a lot of people that consider yourself a great mentor. So, I mean, that's all what you can ask for after being a leader in the industry for so long, right?
Well, thank you. Yeah, look, I think part of it is I've been lucky to know great people. You just mentioned two of my favorite people in the world, two people that I've worked with in Europe, in Latin America. Justin and I work together all over the world. Nino, he's just a very close friend, and Nino is one of my close friends. So it's sort of not fair because you just happen to have met a couple of people who I'm really close to. But I would say that at the end of the day, all you have is your name. And I think there's nothing more important than who you are and being who you are. And if you can make a contribution to people that way, I don't think there's anything better.
Yeah, 100% agree, 100%. So, okay, everyone, here, as you already know, we have David Sable, former Global CEO and Chairman of Y&R, today BML Y&R, one of the world's leading global marketing communications companies, former Vice Chairman and COO at Wunderman, today Wunderman Thompson, where he helped transform the agency into one of the world's leading digital networks. So, welcome, David.
Santi, again, it's great to be here with you.
Great. So, David, first question we have for you. What is the real business of advertising today, considering that advertising investment has been cut in half over the last 10 years?
So I believe that advertising is what it has always been. Advertising educates, it informs, it entertains, it connects people to brands, products, services, things that they like. It teaches them how to use them, what they're about. It creates image around them. It creates stories around them. And now also we're able to make it easy for them to buy. So advertising hasn't changed. In my view, in my belief, 1,000 years from now, advertising will still be a business, and it might be telepathy. That digital will be long gone, and it'll be whatever is 1,000 years from now. But telling stories that connect people is never, ever going to go away as long as there's a human race. And so that's the core. Everything else is an enabler to that piece. And so the beauty of the world we live in today is that we have tremendous enablers. We have incredible ways to enable the story. We can enable interactivity in the story and let people create their own endings, like with Echo, for example, which is a great technology Walmart and others use. We can embed commerce into the story, so you actually can stop it, or even while it's going on, hit a button or press a number or whatever, and actually buy it while the story is going. You can save this story and stop it and watch it later and back it up and go. It's incredible, the tools that we have to enable our stories. But the truth is, at the end of the day, it's just a story. And my proof point to you, by the way, is that if you go back and read, and you can Google and or Bing, so all my Microsoft friends, make note I said Bing in your honor. But if you go back and search, what did people believe like 7, 8 years ago? So I remember somebody came to us from P&G after the Super Bowl a few years back and said, and they had done this spot that was supposedly UGC, user-generated, right? User-generated content. And I remember this person from P&G standing in front of us and saying, "We're putting you all out of business. Your business is dead because everything is going to be user-generated." Well, as it turned out, the users who generated that story were freelancers. So it wasn't like two people, it wasn't like David and Santi sitting in their backyard and maybe were doctors or lawyers or window washers, wouldn't make a difference, who had an idea and we put it together and we sent it. It was like two real guys, two people in our business who had a great idea, put it together. The agency still had to produce it. The joke is that since then till today, the quality of general content has gotten so high. It's never been like this in the history of film, of video, of radio, it's just never been this high. There's more money being spent on production today than ever before. And again, if you go back and search, in whichever type of search you like to do, and look at, everybody thought that everything would be done, not even in studio, you wouldn't need studios, everything would be done in front of, green screens or blue screens. It would all be computer generated. And instead, the numbers of productions that are being done on location, where the attention to detail has never been like this, whether it's Downton Abbey or Mad Men, whether it's Game of Thrones or Money Heist, one of my new favorites, whether it's Tehran, it's crazy. And so think about it, people. All this content that we're looking at that's driving all the stream, the Netflixes and the Disneys and the Peacocks and everybody else, do you want crappy looking advertising attached to that? Do you want bad ideas and cheap production attached to this incredible content? I think not. And so again, the notion of storytelling, our storytelling as advertisers has to be as good as the storytelling that we are connected to. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have today.
David, you're talking about peace. You're talking about your title today in LinkedIn is Change the World. You're the son of a rabbi. How can advertising, communication, or storytelling can help change the world?
First of all, storytelling can change the world, and it has changed the world any number of times. Every revolution began with a story. It's just fact. Every revolution in the world began with a story. Every revolution will begin with a story going forward. I've been working with a group of people, including Peter Yarrow from Peter, Paul, and Mary, who's just an incredible person, incredible social activist, on helping to get the vote out. And we're working with the Parkland kids, the kids from Parkland who had been involved in the shooting, and these poor kids, their friends died and they were hiding under desks, not knowing if they were going to live or die. And they wrote these beautiful songs. And the ability to take what they've done, help them to put it out there, connect it to people, it's all part of the storytelling. It's all part of what has to happen. So if you're asking how advertising as an industry can, of course it can, because it has to be attached to the right things, though. It's not like we're not brain surgeons. Like, get over it. I got over this a long time ago. I decided not to be a brain surgeon, when I was much, much younger. It wasn't what I was going to do. I didn't want to work for a nonprofit. It wasn't of interest to me. I wanted to be the person who helped the nonprofits, who helped the people who were trying to change the world. So I learned what it is that I do as best as I could, and I bring it to the table to apply for them. And that's what we have to do as advertisers, as marketers, as business people. Most of us are not in a position to really do more than try to be as sustainable as we can, to make sure that our products are priced the right way and are affordable. Like, all of these are important, but then maybe you work for luxury products and you're talking to 1/2 of 1% maybe of the world, but that doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that what you need to do is take your talents and turn it towards something that works. Take the money that you make, take the money your product makes, and apply it, as many great companies do. So I don't look to us and say, oh my God, we need as an industry to, I think it's us as individuals, our individual companies, our clients. We just need to hook up with and help the people who are actually doing those things. One of the, the CEO Roundtable and others, the Business Roundtable, put out this whole notion a couple of years ago about how only purposeful companies will be profitable, which is great. And then one of the companies, I won't mention them, who made the biggest pronouncement of this, half of their portfolio or more is in gas and oil and fracking and all that kind of stuff. So it's great that you're telling everybody else to be purposeful. Hello. I think, and then they talked to people like Paul Pullman when he was the CEO of Unilever, one of the most purposeful people that I've ever met in my life, an incredible human being, who's, by the way, drove Unilever. They did very well. They always turned profit. And some of the analysts, the very same people who were saying be purposeful, said to him, you know what? You're a little too purposeful. Use your own money to change the world. Drive more profit for us. So we're always in this tension of we have to return quarterly to our shareholders, but then we have our own desire to return to the world. And so there's a tension, there's a challenge. So I think it's us as human beings who have to make that work.
David, it's not secret that the advertising business has been losing value, and the agencies are finding it increasingly difficult to charge the work they do, right? What changes you think need to be made in order to guarantee the profitability is necessary, mostly to offer future to the talent that makes life in the industry?
So how do you add value to what we do so that we get paid for what we should get paid for is really what you're saying. So let's just take a look back. Sadly, this industry devalued itself. I think some of our press devalued it, some of our leaders devalued it, and we got caught up in this notion that somehow this whole industry had only been about 60-second commercials and had no depth. It's a lot of crap. The fact of the matter is that if you go back 30 years or so to when I started the business, agencies were the McKinsey of their time. CEOs of our clients called the CEOs of our agencies to help solve their problems. We helped create products. We opened markets. We helped move into new international, new global markets. Right? We were culturally attuned. We helped through our other agencies when there were strikes or they had issues that needed to be dealt with. God forbid there were tragedies, we helped with that as well. We were the go-tos. And sadly, we lost it. And we lost it because we became a commodity. We turned our media businesses into commodities. We became focused on our own profit, which we should be. We should always make profit, but we became too focused on profit. So we stopped giving the kind of service that we used to give. So instead of having the right senior people and being able to really over-service the client, and over-service became a big word, we just sort of ended up with, how many times have you heard, oh my God, they came and sold us with the A team and then they brought in the C team to manage the business. In fact, Santi, that's what a big piece of your business is about, is helping agencies and their clients make sure that that doesn't happen, so that there's good accountability for who and when and how much time we spend on business. And I think that that's very important. But that's what happened. And so over time, and then we went through this roller coaster of CMOs changing all the time, and constant pitching, and holding companies coming after the same piece of business time and time again, and prices dropping, the industry dropping its prices, clients demanding to know not just like how much money the secretary was getting paid, but how many days of vacation she took so they could figure out the profitability. It's absurd. It's absurd. And I think that at some point, it's incumbent upon the agencies to make sure that, and I know that at WPP, this is a huge focus of Mark Reed's, to have the right people with the right skill set, people who know data and who know about digital transformation, which is not digital marketing, but what are the problems that our clients are going through as they turn their systems into digital systems, and how important that is for us. That we bring the right people, that we have the right solutions. But clients have to look too. Clients have to understand that we have every right to make a profit, as they do. And that by pushing agencies not to make profit, they're not getting the best work, and they're not getting the best thinking. You know, I was at a conference a couple of years ago, and it was all about agency profits and black boxes and, you know, digital buying and programmatic buying and da-da-da-da-da. You know that was a big issue in the industry. Mm-hmm. And the person who was talking on stage was a client, not of ours, from an insurance agency, and was really going after the industry. Oh my God, you people, black box, too much profit. We have no idea. And somebody said to him, look, at the end of the day, we put up the money, we make those purchases, it's with the media, and if we resell it, if you could buy it for $1, and we can buy it for 50 cents ourselves and sell it to you for 75 cents, you're still saving money. And this person said, well, but you're doing it with my money, so I have every right to the 50 cents, not the 75-cent price. So I raised my hand. I said, look, you know, I don't really know much about the insurance industry, but as I recall, it works through actuarial tables and ages and deaths and general numbers and algorithms, if you will. And as people come into your system, it changes. The more people come in, the more money they put in, the way their ages change and their conditions change, it changes the system. He said, yes, exactly. He said, you understand that? I said, great. So then it means that if I get a policy from you, every time somebody comes in and buys a policy, you're going to send me a note, right, that explains to me exactly how that just impacted my policy. And maybe it should lower my price. Maybe it should raise it. Maybe it doesn't touch it. But you're going to do that, right? Because you're not a black box. You're very transparent. And so everybody started to laugh. There were about 1,000 people in the audience. Everybody started to laugh hysterically. He was pretty pissed off. But that's the problem, right? Clients think it's their right to make profit, and they're right to do that, but it's not ours. I don't know. It's a problem.
And David, you've been through a lot of, you explained all of this, but what do you think are the changes that need to be made in order to, you said 30 years ago, we started with this. Like, how do you think we can get back to those days?
I think we are. I mean, I think that again, as I said, I think the ability to bring data to the table and to use it to help enable the story, I think is huge. To help enable, because it enables us to target better. And by the way, the notion that the industry didn't know targeting is also crap. When I started in the business in 1976, it wasn't what it is today, obviously, because we didn't have the understanding, we didn't have the technology, we didn't have the applications to do it, but we always used data. I mean, we've never not used data, and as more and more data came in, we used more and more data. Now it's unbelievable because you have the ability, as I said before, to completely link the two sides. So it's the science and the art. And by the way, the science and the art, it's not clear which is which, because I think there's an art to using data too. There's an art to insight. Without insight is just so many bits and bytes, right? So I think that that's another thing. I think the insight that we bring to clients is very valuable. I think that's a huge value add. And I think that our ability to take all of these pieces and clients' desire to work again with people who care about their business, who know about their business, and who want to be a part of their business is going to change it. We're already seeing some change. I mean, there's some incredibly powerful client relationships at WPP and some of the other holding companies and independent companies as well. The engagements and relationships that go back 20, 30 years. And my bet is that those relationships have some of the best work and some of the best thinking and have advanced the most, not because they have inertia and not because they got tired of each other, but because they've partnered in the right way, because they believe in each other's business. And I think that's critical. I think we need to be back to partnerships, believing in each other's business.
Totally true. Let me do a parenthesis here, David.
And by the way, I just want to say something. I think, again, products like yours are critical because the ability to track works both ways, right? The ability to have accountability is really critical. And so I can be accountable to myself for my hours used and for how I use my people and for the usage, and I can be accountable to the client. I think that's amazing. So I think that when I think about it, I think that the ability to bring those tools to the table, that's the kind of data that makes the agencies more profitable, but it's also the kind of data that makes the whole relationship more profitable, just in terms of output.
Thank you for those kind words. And for those who stay until the end, David will be available to answer any of your questions. So please use the chat to start asking questions now. And if you're watching this through YouTube, and if you're liking the video podcast, feel free to invite people to join us by sharing the link, and also give a thumbs up here on YouTube. David, and we will spend the last 20 minutes of this conversation answering the questions that you guys post here. So David, you were saying that 30 years ago, CEOs of your clients would call the agency before they call McKinsey. Would you say that consulting firms are winning this battle? And if forget about the word battle, right? But do you think consulting firms are winning clients to agencies? No. And why?
So I think that it's a fear. I think the fear is greater than the reality. So look, McKinsey, I've worked with all the consulting firms, right? And so when I was at Burson Marsteller back in the day, we worked hand in hand with McKinsey. McKinsey would come into a client, clients would call McKinsey and say, we had a problem, we need to change management, we would come in as Burson Marsteller and say, okay, it's great that McKinsey will look at the process, they'll look at the system, they'll tell you how to do it. But you're not going to be successful if you don't communicate that internally, if you don't communicate it externally, if you don't create the pathways for discussion, if you don't build a brand the right way. So we used to come in and had an incredible practice coming in behind McKinsey and doing it. It was great. McKinsey didn't do what we did. We didn't do what they did. And I think that what's happened over the past 2 years is everybody as in the consulting firms think that they can do what we do. So they get paid a lot of money for their consulting side. And it allows them to basically give away some of what we do. Not all of it, but some of it. So as you know, some of the consulting companies have bought not just digital companies, but they've bought creative companies. Mm-hmm. And their hope is that then they go in and they have this big engagement. They're getting paid a lot of money, so they have more available funds and more profit. They can use that as a way to get another very profitable big consulting contract and get, that lasts for a while. And so my view is they're throwing our work away. They're using it to give away. Now that can't be very valuable, and it shouldn't be very valuable. And it's not what they do. So ultimately, when they have to start investing in that side of the business, investing in people, when they understand what it actually takes to get the work done, I think they're going to be in trouble. And so my view is we need to stay focused on what we do and what we do best, and not get sidetracked by trying to fight them. I look back in 2000 when I did my, for Wonder Room, we did our first, 2001 maybe, we did our very first 5-year strategic plan for WPP. And they asked me who was our competition. Already back then, we identified the consulting companies. So it's not new. 20 years ago, we knew that they wanted to be in our side of the business, particularly on the digital side. And so they've just been making investments to get there, but it's still our business, and I think that clients would still rather work with us. So I see you have a question. Coming from a mid-sized Marcom agency established in 1978 in Chicago, you are spot on. Oh, thank you for that. Ooh, thank you. Somebody agrees with me. We gained clients from the big agency when they were pitching with the A team, then bringing in the B team after when they can't. Totally agree with your perspective. Thanks for the conversation. No, thank you. And again, by the way, mid-sized agencies very quickly become large-size agencies, or in their pursuit of being large agencies, do the same thing. So it's something that we all need to pay attention to. I'll tell you, one of my good friends has a wonderful agency in Brooklyn, one of the hot shops. And he told me that one of his biggest problems was that when they were smaller, somehow they managed to get things done with a small number of people. But as the budgets grew, somehow the relationship between people and budget didn't hold. I'm not talking about in absolute numbers. I'm just even saying in terms of percentages, it didn't hold. So the bigger the budgets, somehow the percentage of people grew. And it never made any sense to him. But that's what happens, right? And then that's when you're forced with the A team and the B team, because you just don't have enough people, and you don't have enough of those people to actually go to pitch and to run. So you're pitching, and running, but you're always a little bit behind. And so, it's a challenge.
Yeah. David, I have a ton of questions for you, but I'm seeing here in the Q&A that a lot of people are bringing in their questions. So I'll let people ask you, because I think it's more valuable here Daniel Axe says, how should agencies respond to the in-house trend that is enveloping both media buying and creative agencies and creative services?
Right. So the truth is that literally since the day I came into the business, this notion of in-housing has gone through all of these, it's gone through stages and phases and waves. And it's a problem. It's a growing problem, yet again. Here's the way I look at it. First of all, we should embrace it. I've long believed that one of the things that we need to do is embed people at the client so that they're in the client's guts, they're walking the halls, they're part of the meetings that happen every single day. So it doesn't require a phone call or an email or a text or a WhatsApp or a Slack or whatever. I sometimes I lose track. Some people are on so many different things. Like I Slacked you this morning, but wait a second. I thought you were sending me, it's crazy, right? Be there, be with the client, like listen. Obviously COVID now, and got my mask. Notice it matches colors. This is pretty crazy, right? Just shows you how nuts I am. I have masks in every color. So this is the black mask, my Zorro mask for when I'm wearing black. If I was wearing blue today, I'd have like a blue one. Anyways, masks aside, this is pre-COVID, obviously. So the embedding in clients is really important. And I think that what happened is clients started looking and they said, okay, I have to have my own data. Clients need to have data centers, clearly. So they look at what we do and they say, well, I can do that. Now, the truth is what we do with data should be and is a little bit different than what they do. But somehow these things became conflated and clients said, I can do all the data. Once they had the data, they looked at programmatic buying and said, well, hell, I can do that too. And so they took that piece. And once they did the programmatic buying, now here's my view, right? Every company in the world has a limited amount of money to invest in its capital projects. Right? It's part of making money. It's part of what we do. Now, if you are a cookie company and you start investing huge amounts of money, capital in programmatic buying, what do you think? What do you possibly think your shareholders will say in 2 years when it starts eating into your profits? But you're going to have to make those investments. See, it looks good the first year. It looks like you saved money. Second year, maybe. By the third year, not so clear. By the fourth year, forget it. And so you see a lot of companies have in-house and then they kind of take it out again and then maybe they bring a little piece back. So I think that we just need to embrace it in the biggest way that we can and make ourselves the in-house, but do it in such a way that it's way more efficient, way more cost effective, but yet gives the client back here this huge resource of people and ideas and variable usage that they don't have by hiring 2 creative people to work inside. So hopefully, that answers.
What do you think?
Here's one.
Yeah.
David, what do you think about that commonly mentioned tendency of big brands and the customers creating their own in-house creativity area? Oh, so it's basically the same question. I mean, are advertising agencies tending to disappear? No, they're not tending to disappear. They're not, honestly. I got to tell you, I've seen in the past 6-8 months so many little advertising agencies come. It's crazy. Like people who've left big agencies or kind of lost their jobs or whatever it is, and actually get clients or pieces of clients or whatever who are working and they're not in-housing at all. We will not disappear. Folks, don't lose that frame of mind. You are important. We work in an important industry that adds huge value. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. Full stop.
David, why do you think here's another question. Why do you think consultant firms can bill double or triple the hour than what an agency can bill for their service?
Because they never killed their own businesses. They never walked around, their CEOs didn't go around talking about how bad their consulting was, or how undigital they were, or how they weren't part of the real world. And it's pretty amazing when you think about it, folks. Like, in our industry, how we put guns to our own heads, somehow thinking that that was a good thing. So they never did that. They just kept going, right? They were adding value. I have to tell you, this blew my mind. So if I would come to you, if I was your client and say, I need you to do a branding exercise for me. I want you to go back, look at the competition, put it together, give me a view, look at our brand, look at their brands, what's different, what's interesting, whatever. If I was your client, and I was a big client, I will bet you that most of you would either figure out how to do it within the course of what you do, not charge much more of anything or much more for it. Client would probably say to you, hey, look, I'm giving you all this money, you gotta do this for me, it's really important. But I guarantee you do it well. So I saw 3 of the biggest consulting firms pitch a piece of brand business. It wasn't a client, I was just asked to come in and look at the pitches and just help them decide. They didn't invite any of you, any of us. So there was not one holding company, there was not one agency in this pitch, it was all those companies. One of the bigger companies got it. They paid them $1.5 million. So as you get sick in your stomach and like start going, oh no, I can't believe that. Listen to me, $1.5 million for what we would have given away or charged almost nothing for. And if I tell you that the presentation was crap, you would have been embarrassed to present it. You never would have presented. First of all, one would hope, yours would have looked really good if nothing else. But I guarantee you that the content, knowing as many of you as I do and knowing many of your companies, none of you would have done it other than a great presentation with real insight and real thinking and well put together. These guys went, they had a couple of the junior people pull stuff together from third parties. There was no insight, something. And the client was like, wow, this is great. And wrote them a check for $1.5 million. So basically, because they had belief in themselves, they believe in their product, and they believe that what they do is great. And I think that somehow, I think we've lost a little bit of that. And rightly so. Look, we've all been there, right? We get beat up a little bit, but you have to believe. You have to get that belief back, folks. If nothing else, come in tomorrow, get on the call, see people, you're in a great business.
There's another person here, David, that says his name is Grant Theron, and he says that I consider David a mentor. So very happy to see him speak again. The question is,
Grant, one of my buddies.
It is getting tougher to attract young talent who see the technology companies, core, Facebook, Google, TikTok, etc., as better options. What is your advice to the industry to fix this?
So that's an interesting question. I've heard that before, but can I tell you that I get literally 10 calls a week. And when I say calls, it could be emails, it could be on LinkedIn, it could be through just somebody sending me an email or a text or a WhatsApp or whatever, asking me if I can help some young person get an interview or talk to them to help direct them. I think there are more people who want to get into marketing than ever before. And I think there are plenty of young people who want to come into our business. And I think, again, part of the problem is we keep telling them, like we keep saying, well, you're not coming in, they're all going to TikTok. No, they're not. See, there was a time that we thought that the people who went to those places were getting paid a lot more. They had way better working conditions. Not true anymore. Was true for a bit. It's totally not true anymore. And I think that young people learn more in a great agency than they will anyplace else, because the eclectic nature of what they learn is so much greater. They learn about TikTok, but they also learn about other media, and they learn how to create a story, and they learn how to attach data, and they learn how to match. It's completely different. So I think that there are plenty of young people who want to come into this industry, and I think we need to make it clear to them that this is a great industry to be in, and that they will learn a lot, and that they will grow in incredible ways that they won't necessarily grow at these other places. You know, we don't make people drink Kool-Aid. I think it's one of the great things about our industry. You know, look at some of these young people who go to the social media companies. I mean, look at the revolt going on at the social media companies. Hello. Like, you notice that? Like, the number of people who are leaving, and the blogs and the chat rooms and the Reddits, everything, it's filled with just like, get me out of here. These people are nuts, because they're expected to drink the Kool-Aid. We don't drink Kool-Aid. We have open eyes. That's what we do. And we know how to use the products better than anybody. And I think that's really critical. We don't just know how to use Facebook. We're not at Facebook and think Facebook is the cure-all for everything. We also know how to use Reddit, and we also know how to use TikTok, and we also know how to use anything else that'll come to the table, whatever else comes. We will figure out how to use it. We'll be at the front line of usage, guaranteed. We always were. We were at the front line of print, of radio, of cinema, of television, always. We lost it a little bit in the beginning, honestly, and I think this is also part of the problem, because, you know, it's interesting, in the early days of television, is before my time, but I don't think anybody ever walked into a living room and said, oh my God, how did those people get in that box? That's technology. I can't touch that. Instead, people in our industry look and say, wow, look at that. Look what they're doing. So let's help them tell their stories better, and let's bring our clients in here and figure out how we do it. And we created an industry. Digital, we looked at and said, that's technology, it's not ours. And so what happened was, we gave away the first 5 years. We did. We gave it away. Pathetically, we gave it away. And lots of little companies came up, none of whom exist anymore for the most part. All rip-offs, in my view, who were charging millions upon millions of dollars for stuff that today you don't pay for. My granddaughter can do some of the stuff that they do. She's 5 years old, my little one. And we gave it away, but no more, no more.
David, so here, Dave Hansen says he has 170 employees, a mid-size agency. He says, we bill mostly hourly and have great margins. Yet Tim Williams, common speaker, encourages charging for value, not hourly rates or monthly fees. Are you aware of any agencies that work with the clients and are paid just on value?
So yeah, there are agencies that do get paid for value. I personally always liked value charging more than hourly. And again, I think it depends. Which lawyers work on an hourly basis, right? And that's how they make their money. So they work on an hourly basis. If it takes the case however long it takes, they get paid. That's the end of it. I think our business is different because the value, and by the way, not all do, some of them get paid that way, and then they work deals to get paid on the end of the deal as well. So they get a percentage of whatever the settlement is, and that's where the really big bucks come. So I think that value pricing is really works if you know how to use it, and if you can value yourself well enough. And if your relationship with the client is such that the client values it. I think that's part of the problem. Clients have to value it. So we got caught up in this whole scope of work and FTEs, and no, it doesn't really take you 5 people. You only need 3. And why do you need this one? And they're making too much money anyways. Give me this one. Like, that's just not a way to solve a problem. Get paid for solving problems. You should know how much it'll cost you. You should have a sense of how much it's worth to the client. And if you can get value, if you can value price that, do it. Put a little bit of yourself at risk. I mean, I always believe that you put money at risk in these things, right? Get paid for what you do, which you should. Client gets paid for what they do. Get paid for what you do and put something at risk so that you get more value. But I think that's critical. I see here, Santi, a question. We all know that data is king, but did data usage kill a lot of the creative risk-taking and the overall product delivery just dropped? No, I don't think that's, I don't agree with that. I think that in some cases, yes, it did impact it. And I think amongst people who thought that data is the driver and that what you attach to it makes no difference. But those people kind of went away. I mean, it just doesn't work. So I think data is critical, but I don't think data is king. I think the story, content is king. Data is the court. Data is without data, the king is sort of by themselves, right? So without data, your story, your content, the king is over here. But if you surround the king with data, with this incredible court, with the army, with the people who move, then the king is really powerful. That's the way to look at it. There is no conflict between data and creative. There should not be. I know there still exists, so you're right, but they're wrong. It's just fact. Data is not king. Data is the court. It's the enabler. Content is king.
That's a great point of view, David. Thanks for that. And here, an anonymous attendee says, I have a boutique agency and having a hard time scaling my business because media, which has fueled so much revenue, has moved almost exclusively to media agencies. So now, what is the best way to scale? Investors, new offices, what makes sense today?
So look, that's not a new story. That's a 20-year-old story, and it continues to be true. My sense is like this. In my view, even back in my day, media buying was already becoming a commodity. And there were companies, it was a very famous company, I think they were the first maybe, called Airtime, you can all go look it up, that basically did media buying. And so they aggregated, they understood the power of the scale of dollar aggregation and got better rates or whatever. And so they made that a commodity. Planning is not a commodity. Planning is a value add. But channel planning, not just media planning, channel planning, where should I be? What should I do? And then how do I best allocate what I give to the buyers? That's where you should be putting your money and your time, because I think I wouldn't worry about that. Revenue's has been going forever. I'm less concerned about the media. And by the way, there's not that much revenue there. You know, when I started the business, it was all still commission based. And so it was great. You could staff your business any which way you wanted. You could make big parties. You could do all kinds of great things because that commission was so good. Once the commission went away and everybody went to the same scope of work, FTEs, there's not that much money there, honestly. I mean, it's just not. Programmatic brought more money to the table for sure. But I think about things that add value. What adds value? What adds value is human intelligence. It's intel. It's not just churning numbers. It's understanding what they mean. It's understanding what's important. It's understanding how to connect your story. You know, it's interesting. It was, I think it was JP Morgan Chase, were the first who came back and said, you know, this programmatic is great. I got 100,000 different sites I'm on in a day, but I'm attached to all kinds of bad content I don't want to be attached to. I need this rethought. And they went down to now 5,000 or less without any degradation. And now many people follow. So I think this notion of not just taking stuff that comes out of a pipe and saying, okay, my work is going to follow, but thinking about where should I be? Where should my content be? How do I make those connections stronger and better? That's value add. That's where you should be. That's what you should be thinking about.
So I think this also answers the question of Yomara Arnold that says, how can we recover the value we lost as an industry? And I think that you, David, are putting a lot of like energy and effort in telling the audience that is the power.
Here's a good one. Santi, here's a good one from Pablo. Is the gig economy or the gig trend boosting the industry or hurting, and how? So it's an interesting one. And I'll tell you, it's going to be part of another blog that I'm working on and I'm thinking about. So what is the gig economy? So first of all, in our industry, there's always been a gig economy. We call them freelancers. And as long as I remember, every agency that I ever knew used freelancers. And they used it because they never had enough people. When big crunches came, you couldn't go out and hire enough people to come in, and you didn't want to do that, right? Because you wanted to have some kind of variable system. So you had freelancers. You knew who was good for what, and you always had people looking. We had a whole department that just looked at freelancers. So that we always had freelancers ready to work. We knew the guys who were great at pharma, who were great at cars, who were great at CPG, who were great at B2B, whatever. And you just, that's always been there. That's always been there. So to me, what is this notion of the gig economy? So what's happened? So because of Uber, we talk about a gig economy. I got to tell you, my friends who drove taxis when we were younger didn't become professional taxi drivers. They were part of the gig economy. We've created this thing called the gig economy because it's driven crazy valuations for some companies. But it's not clear to me. So it's a gig economy because those poor people don't have any safety net. They don't get social services. They don't get social benefits from their companies. And they're all revolting because nobody wants to live that way. And so those companies get huge, crazy valuations because they say, oh, wow, it's the gig economy. This is what's happening in the digital world. Crap, those people have always been there. It's just that we never allowed them to lose the social net. Now we have. So I don't think that the gig economy is hurting us. I think the gig economy has always been a part of what we've done. And I think you need to understand how to best use freelancers and what to do with them. In fact, the New York Festival Awards have the Bowery Awards, which are going to be coming out soon. I think they just closed them, maybe the entrance, about a ton of entrants, which is really about those people, because those people haven't had their own, the freelancers, the independent workers, if you will, the gig economy today. They haven't had their own recognition. So now they have something called the Bowery Award, which is going to be their own recognition. And I pay big attention to that because I think it's important.
So David, we have 5 minutes left, and these 5 minutes are for you. What do you want to tell people about the industry, about yourself, about storytelling, about communications? Anything?
Thank you, Son. I think we've said enough about that. I think I see this one last anonymous time attendee, just a quick one. Best way to differentiate from other agencies and not be a commodity. Thought leadership, owning tech. There's so many small agencies now. Can we stand apart and compete for new business on a different level? At the end of the day, right, we can all buy tech. We can all rent tech. We can all license tech. Just the way it is. We didn't own printing presses back in the day. It was only print. You went and used the best presses that there were, right? That's how but what did you do? You made the best work. That is how you differentiate yourself. Have better insight. Understand your client's business. understand your business and bring the two together. You know, I once heard somebody say in a seminar, you need to know your client's business better than the client. So I heard that, I said, that's a bunch of shit. Like, what does that mean? If I understood the client's business better than the client, I'd be CEO of the client's business, not my business. But I know my business better. And I know how to look at their business through my lens. And that's the value that I bring my client. And if I can do that and marry those two things, that's where the magic happens. So that's important for that. But let me just say just a couple of words in closing, and just about life, and just sort of like reflecting on what I think are important, just some things maybe for you to think about. You know, we're in a bad time. We're in the time of the plague of 2020. And some people, and rightly so, have been locked up at home, and it's hurt their mental health and in despair. I think we've reached this place where finally the notion of having so many friends but not really being connected because we somehow mistook the digital friends for real friends is, I think, has come home to roost. Because I always said that the only friend you have is the person who picks you up at the airport in the middle of the night. That's how you know who your friends are. And I think we found that. Our friends were the people who came, brought us chicken soup when we were sick, and called us on the phone, used their cell phones, and not scheduled Zooms to see how we were, and who really cared. And I think that what you need to do is go back and start reaching out to people. I'm a hugger, and so it's hard for me because you can't hug people anymore, and we can't we can't be in that kind of close proximity, but you can talk to people, and you can do things beyond the Zoom call, and you can get one-to-one and just say, how are you? What are you doing? How can I help you? Let's just talk. There's nothing more valuable. There's somebody asked me in a call a few weeks ago, how did you balance your life? You're so involved in nonprofits and in the industry and in the companies and with clients and your children. Like, how did you do it? And I said, you know, I did it because I don't believe there's balance. They said, what are you talking about? Like, you're known for believing in people and balance. I said, no. If you spend your life thinking about, okay, I'm going to give you 20% and I'm going to give you 30, and so that leaves me 50, but I'll give of that 50, 10, you'll go nuts and you will accomplish zero, nothing. Instead, you have to give 100% to every single thing that you do. And yes, I get it, that it can add up to 500%. It's just the way it is. Everything you do has to be 100%. It makes no difference. 100%. Years ago when I started traveling back in the 80s. There weren't many people who traveled around the world, certainly not in our company. And there were no cell phones, there was no email in the beginning. And there was often, I went, if I couldn't find a way to get to the AT&T international operator, which was in some countries, I might go 3 days without talking to my wife and kids, and she had no way of knowing where I was. I was in Indonesia during a coup. I was in the Philippines during a coup. No way to call out, no way to be in touch. But that's what I did. And my wife said to me, you know, you the breadwinner, is just the way it worked out. You make more than I do. It's important for us, your job. So here's the deal. You travel, you continue to do that, but when you're home, even if it's for an hour, you need to be home 100%. 100% in the game. And so I did my best. I thought not as well as I should have or could have, until I asked one of my daughters a couple of years ago. I said, you know, I just feel so bad. I missed so many things. And she goes, what are you talking about, Dad? You missed nothing. And the truth is I did. But to her, I didn't, because she knew that I did my best to be there 100%. And that's what you have to do. Be there 100% for your friends. Be there 100% for your clients. be there 100% for your colleagues. Whatever you're doing, be there 100%. Now, my personal motto is do it big or stay in bed. If every morning you can't wake up thinking about how you're going to change the world in some new way, in some better way than you did yesterday. And changing the world could be just your little world. It could be just between you and a friend, between you and a client, some new big idea that you have. A passion, go out and vote. If you can't do that every day, you might as well just stay in bed another hour. Who cares? Doesn't make a difference.
David.
So that's my view.
Great closing. Very inspiring. Thanks again. I mean, you're always great. I think that's why you're probably your LinkedIn named you one of the 20 most inspiring and thoughtful leaders in the world. Right? Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but something similar. But it's okay. You're only as inspiring as the people who listen to you, so I do my best. But thank you, Santi. Thank you so much. And I'll just say one last word. Inspiration is a two-way street. Mentoring is a two-way street. So everybody who you mentioned, and I thank them, and I'm humbled that they call me their mentor, but I look at them as my mentors. I've learned from every single person that I talk to, everybody that I'm with, and I think that if you do that, it just makes the world a much better place. So Santi, thank you. All of you who are listening, thank you. I hope I answered your questions. And if I didn't, feel free to contact me and I'll try to do better. And do it bigger, stay in bed.
Yeah. Thank you, David. It has been great. And thanks everyone for joining us. You can find this afterwards in different social media link and YouTube as well. Great. Thank you.
You.
Bye-bye.